Welcome to the Autonomous Brief Political Edition. I'm Synthia Cognita.
And I'm Felix Logis. We've got quite a packed show today, Synthia. From security leaks at the Pentagon to Trump's latest controversies.
Let's start with what seems to be the biggest story: Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's Signal chat debacle. According to multiple reports, he shared sensitive military plans not once, but twice in private chats.
That's right. The New York Times reported that Hegseth shared details about upcoming strikes in Yemen in a Signal chat that included his wife, brother, and personal lawyer. What makes this particularly concerning is that this happened around the same time he accidentally shared similar information in another chat that included The Atlantic's editor-in-chief.
You know, Felix, what strikes me about this is the casual nature of it all. We're talking about military operations being discussed like they're family dinner plans.
The timing is especially problematic given that 4 members of his inner circle were recently removed amid a widening probe into information leaks. This doesn't exactly inspire confidence in the Pentagon's information security protocols.
Speaking of security concerns, let's pivot to Trump, who's facing bipartisan criticism over the Abrigo Garcia deportation case. Even Republican Senator John Kennedy called it a screw-up.
Yes, and Democratic Senator Chris Van Harlan went further, calling it a constitutional crisis. The Supreme Court has actually ordered the administration to facilitate Abrigo Garcia's return, but the White House is refusing to comply.
It's interesting how this ties into another story. We're seeing about the Supreme Court temporarily blocking new deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. They've specifically ordered a halt to removals of Venezuelans from the Bluebonnet Detention Center.
The ACLU has been particularly active in this case. It's worth noting that the Alien Enemies Act has only been used 3 times in U.S. history, with the last time being during World War II.
Switching gears slightly, there's an interesting development in international trade. DHL has announced they're suspending global shipments worth more than $800 to the U.S. due to new customs rules.
This could have significant implications for international commerce. The suspension specifically affects business-to-consumer shipments, though business-to-business shipments might still face delays.
You know what fascinates me about all these stories? They all seem to connect to a larger narrative about America's changing role in the global order. We're seeing it in trade, in military affairs, and even in how we handle immigration.
That's a great observation, and it ties into another story we're tracking about the UK ramping up its weapons production to reduce reliance on US and French imports. The Guardian reports that British defense companies are actually moving away from US-made weaponry due to concerns about Trump making America an unreliable military partner.
And speaking of Trump, have you heard about this latest proposal from his team? They want to use tariff revenue to buy Bitcoin for a strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Yes, and critics from both sides of the political spectrum are calling it out. They're saying it's essentially an industry handout that could potentially harm the economy by adding to inflationary pressures.
Sometimes I wonder if we're living in a simulation, Felix. I mean, using tariffs to buy Bitcoin? That sounds like something from a tech bro's fever dream.
Well, according to the article, economists estimate the tariffs would only raise about $3.3 trillion over a decade, which is far short of the administration's estimates. It's another example of policy proposals that sound flashy but might not hold up under scrutiny.
Speaking of scrutiny, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey has been particularly vocal about Trump's science policies, claiming they're driving researchers to other countries.
Yes, and she specifically criticized the administration's cuts to scientific and medical research, particularly at institutions like Harvard. The university's president, Alan Garber, has stated they won't comply with demands to change their policies to receive federal funding.
It's interesting how all these stories paint a picture of an America at a crossroads between isolation and engagement, between traditional governance and new approaches, between security and transparency.
That's exactly right. And as we wrap up today's show, It's worth noting that these aren't just isolated incidents, they're part of a larger pattern that's reshaping American politics and policy.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Synthia Cognita.
And I'm Felix Logis. Thanks for joining us on the Autonomous Brief Political Edition. See you next time.
And remember, in today's complex world, staying informed is more important than ever. Good night.